Happy December! It is finally time for me to do my unboxing of my 2019 December Art Snacks box. Obviously this is later in the month than I normally do my Art Snacks unboxing videos. I try to do them at the very beginning of the month as soon as I get the box, but this box was kind of a hassle to get to me. The first one said it was delivered and it wasn't in my mailbox, so I assume it was delivered to a different mailbox and they just didn't return it to me. And then Art Snacks has really good customer service, so they sent me out another one as soon as they could, and then my replacement box said it got returned to sender. However, it did end up finding its way back to me, which was nice because I was like, oh my goodness! But yeah, it finally came to me. Art Snacks has really good customer service though. I've only ever had to contact them twice and they're really awesome. But onto the box itself. The very first thing I pulled out was this Kuretake Zig Wink of Luna metallic brush pen, which is a mouthful. I got mine in the color purple and I was really excited. I was both excited and like very displeased because I really wanted to try one of these. I've seen them at Michael's so many times and I've just been like, oh, should I get this? I don't really know how it works, what it does, etc. But they look really pretty. And then the downside of this was that mine came in the color purple, which is obviously kind of like a thing that comes with subscription boxes, especially art ones. You don't know the color you're gonna be getting, but purple's my least favorite color, so I was like, ooh. But I was excited to see how it worked. The only thing I really didn't like that it kind of gooped out the side. I've seen this happen to a lot of people, so I'm fairly certain it's not user error, but it's just like, if you squeeze it too hard, it goops out the side, but it takes forever for ink to flow. But anyways, next item was this Edding 1880 draw liner. It's just a fine liner. I believe this was in like a 0.3 millimeter, so it was a tiny boy, but a good boy. A fine liner is a fine liner. Then we got a Karin Brush Marker Pro. I think mine was in like red violet or something like that, but this was a purplish pinkyish color, so at least we got like a good color scheme going on. And then last but not least is this Kuretake Zig White Cartoonist Brush Pen. I was very interested in this when I saw it. I've never seen these before, but it's basically like the other pen, very similar style where it's kind of like the body of a water brush, but it's filled with white ink. So I was very curious to see how this guy would work, and spoiler alert, it did the same like unpleasant gooping thing out the side. So to activate these pens, you're supposed to like shake them and squeeze them, and ink is supposed to flow to the brush end, but it just kind of gooped out. And then we got the Art Snacks sticker. So that is everything that came in this box. Obviously 2 out of the 4 supplies were kind of giving me issues before I even started using them, so I was kind of interested to see how this one would go. Regardless of that though, as per usual when it comes to Art Snacks boxes, the first thing I want to do is swatch them and kind of see how these supplies perform, what the colors of the inks actually look like, etc. And something I've really been a fan of lately is seeing like if things are water soluble and using them in ways that you wouldn't necessarily go to for the first time trying a product. So for these products in particular, both of the main colors I received, which was like the Brush Marker Pro, and the Wink of Luna brush pen, both of them were really deep colors. So initially they're like both very vibrant and very deep, and there's not a lot of contrast between them. So right off the bat, I was not super excited about the color scheme that I ended up purchasing. While it went together really well, I just didn't know how I would end up working that into my own art. So one of the first things that I ended up doing after I swatched them was I took a water brush pen and I just kind of ran them over the supplies to see if adding water to them would do anything. And all of these supplies seemed to be water soluble. Even the fine liner, like some of the ink came up. I think that was just because it hadn't been sitting long enough to dry, but I felt like I gave it enough time. I don't know, it's supposed to be waterproof, but some of the ink came up. It's probably just because it was thick. I assume it ends up like, if you let it sit there for a while, it ends up being waterproof, but that's just something to put out there. But nothing else was waterproof, and that is wonderful because that means I can dilute these products very easily and not worrying about like huge issues coming along. So I was really excited to start actually diluting these products. And then when it came to the drawing that I was going to do with these products, I decided to sketch out a character that I had drawn previously, as well as her dragon. I don't have a name for her. I don't know if she's going to just be a random character I draw. I don't know. I'm really bad at making characters and giving them any kind of backstory and naming them first and foremost, but I drew her previously with her dragon and I just wanted to redraw them, and I thought these colors would go really nice with them because I was actually really pleased with this color combination. Just the way that the pink and the purple blended together super well, and when they got diluted, they were just such gorgeous pastel colors, and they went together so well. I know it's a subscription box and you kind of get what you get, and I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that if I really wanted to, I could just wait and see what Art Snack sends other people and just purchase it if I want it. But I think it is nice that it pushes you out of your comfort zone, even in terms of color. Obviously, everything with an art subscription box is kind of willing to push you out of your comfort zone because you don't know what you're getting. The goal is to hopefully use the supplies, and you don't know what colors you're getting. And there is a lot of good aspects to that. But I had so much fun doing this. I just ended up putting some ink in a little plastic palette and then taking a water brush to it and just kind of winging it as I normally do. That's not a surprise. That shouldn't be a surprise. I pretty much wing everything I do when it comes to art. I don't plan out that far ahead. I did want to kind of have a mental image as far as where I wanted certain colors to go, so I knew I wanted to use mainly the pink for her face as well as a little bit of the purple for the darker tones. I wanted the dragon to have a lot of purple in its horns because I felt like the purple was able to go to a much deeper tone. But aside from that, I just kind of decided to put color where I thought it would look nice, and I'm really happy with how this box ended up turning out. I was really skeptical of it at first, especially when I was swatching things, because like I mentioned previously, they were just really deep, saturated colors, and I didn't know how they'd end up working together, but I felt like the color combination that they ended up giving me in this box ended up being a plus, even though at the very beginning I was very hesitant because of that purple. But in the end, I just really like how this ended up turning out. I did also decide to try and go in, initially I was putting the actual ink from the pens in the palette and then taking a brush to it to do line work. And then I kind of switched back and forth just between using my own brush with the ink versus the actual pens themselves, which is kind of silly because the pens can go to fairly nice tips, so I didn't know I was using a brush for a really long time, but I think I ended up going back to the brush. I don't know, it was a back and forth process, but this was so much fun to work on. I definitely don't know how I feel about the Brush Marker Pro. It's kind of a weird art supply. It almost feels like a water-soluble Sharpie, especially because of the body of the brush and the tip of the brush. It really feels like Sharpie has a line of brush markers that are they have a Copic nib to them almost, but they're still Sharpies, and that's really what this reminded me of. I don't know if Sharpies are water soluble when they're wet, at least. I know obviously they're permanent markers, but I don't know how you can really dilute them. And I don't know. I haven't done Sharpie art in a really long time, but the Pro Marker, Brush Marker Pro, gosh, it has such a weird name. I want to say it's like a Pro Marker brush, but I think it's a Brush Marker Pro. But it just felt like a Sharpie to me, not in a bad way by any means, and it definitely didn't have any kind of smell to it, but I just think everything about the physical appearance of the pen was very Sharpie-like. And also, I can say with confidence, I'm really not a fan of the Wink of Luna pen, just because it tends to goop out the side. The goal is when your brush tip is dry, you want to squeeze the barrel to get more ink to come out, but it just kind of ends up spewing out the side. And yes, ink is eventually going to the brush, but it really does take a lot of time for that to happen. And that's the same thing for the, the white Zig Cartoonist brush pen, which, you can use this ink when it squeezes out the side. You could put it in a palette and take your own brush and dip it in that ink, but then it's what's the point of having the pen when you could just have a little glass jar of ink at that point, I feel like. So they're really cool in theory. If they worked a lot better, they would be nicer. And I don't think this is user error on my part, because I've seen so many people use the Wink of Luna brush pen and they had the same exact issue. So I don't think it's a user error. If this is a user error, by all means, feel free to correct me, because if I could use this supply the way it's intended, that would be pretty cool. If I could use it and not have to go at a super slow pace or worry about the product dripping ink onto my page where I don't intend for ink to be dripped on my page, that would be cool, because that did happen with the white brush pen at some point. I was just trying to use it for a really thin outline around the character, and it just kind of gooped a glob of paint, and I was just oh, I have this to work with now. But as a whole, like I said, I really enjoyed this box. I had a lot of fun working on this illustration. If you guys also get Art Snacks, leave me a comment below what colors you guys got with this box, because I actually haven't seen anyone else's box, so I'd be very curious to see what you guys got. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.